and Debbie and Brandy. I think we need one more, right?
You got
That's
Sally.
4, we need 5. Yeah,
got-
Brandy?
You got me and Sally and Brian, and you said you got Jason, and is Debbie official?
Yes, once Jason gets in here, I think we're good.
Then that's 5, yeah.
Yeah, then we're at 5.
That just means Sally needs to run the meeting. So what happened to Dole?
He just called, right? Yeah.
Called and said, good luck, Sally.
Yeah,
Just
no
checking.
worries. I
I
can
know.
pinch, I can pinch it.
I know you're very good at that thing.
All right. Well, Sally, we've come to the appointed time and place, and we do now have a quorum. So at the discretion of the chair, you may call the meeting to order. I will say that anyone who's within driving distance of PPACG and you want to attend in person, there is going away cake for Catherine here. So come on over, get a piece of cake. But then I guess if you did that, we'd lose quorum. So stay where you're at. Never mind.
So on that note, I will call the meeting to order. We have established a quorum. And Jessica, do you want to confirm attendance for us?
Sure, I can go ahead and confirm attendance for you. I will go down the line and name off
It's just
everybody.
weird because I've never had the issue before.
Hey, Mark, you're not on mute. Thanks.
So Mark, you've never had the issue of talking during the meeting or?
Anyway, I'll go down the list real quick, name off everybody I've seen. Let me know if I've missed you for the minutes, and I will address that. Anyway, Kathleen, Wendy, Matt Jr., all here for CDOT. I see Gail on the line, Brian, Victoria, Aaron, Kristen, Brandy, Debbie, John Lee Santos in the room, Darren is here, Jason in the room, Sally on the line. Is there other members? I see Tim just joined us. Is there anybody else that I missed?
Well, I was about to say, you were dissing our homegirl, Lachelle over there, as the kids say.
Lachelle Davis.
Michelle, hello. Sorry. Okay, so confirmed your quorum. If you guys will just make sure when you're speaking within the room to turn your microphone on, it'll light up red. That way they can hear you out in Zoom land. And then those that are on Zoom, if you'll make sure to mute yourself when you're not presenting or talking, so we don't get your background noise. And then state your name for motion so that that's recorded in the meeting. And then I turn it back to you, Chair.
So in
Thank-
Colorado, should we really call it Zoom land? That could have multiple meetings. I'm just saying.
Thank you, Jessica. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I don't have any changes. Staff, do you have any changes? Then I'll be looking for a motion.
Sally, this is Brian. I move approval of the agenda.
Thank you. A second.
This is Tim Roberts. I'll second.
Thank you, Tim. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, we will move on to public comments for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone in virtual land or in person that would have any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4, which is approval of the minutes from the July 15th, 2021 meeting. I had a chance to do a quick review and they looked good to me.
Victoria, I'll move approval.
Thank you, Victoria.
This is Brian. I'll second.
Thank you, Brian, for the second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, minutes are
Sorry.
approved.
Sally, I'm sorry. I just noticed something
Oh,
on the attendee list of the
Yes.
tax meeting. Kristen Kenyon's first name is misspelled. We could fix that.
okay. Jessica, if you can note that and fix it.
Thanks,
Appreciate it.
Brian.
Okay, moving on to number 5, which is Board of Directors report. John, I believe this is your,
Yep, at the last Board of Directors meeting, there were two items of interest to the TAC. One is that they approved the 22 to 25 tip. Woohoo, got that right. And the other item is that they approved the long-range plan amendment to go out for public comment. So I believe Jessica McMillan is working now to get that in the paper and get posted on our website. So comments will, people will have the opportunity to comment on the long-range plan amendment, and then we'll move forward. So you'll probably see it again next month to go through the process for approval, unless we get some outcry of public comments saying that they want to change something. But other than that, it's probably moving forward. So I believe those are the items of interest from the Board of Directors meeting that happened last week.
thank you, John. And will you be commenting on the workshops that were recently held? Or-
Sure, we can do that under this item or towards the end. But yes, we held workshops on the 2nd and on the 16th, covering items from SB 260, the greenhouse gas rulemaking, federal transportation legislation, the Southwest Chief Front Range Passenger Rail, and electrification opportunities. Those were sort of the main transportation items. We also included an item from Monument about the water loop or something. It has the word loop in it, but I forget what the first part is. So those were the items discussed. We also briefly talked about transportation funding equity, and Brandy asked that we add that item to our agenda, which we did, and we'll talk about that when we get to item 7D. So that was the workshops. We sent out the presentations and the recording from the first one, and as soon as I can get my fingers on the keyboard, we'll send out the recap recording and presentations from the second one, probably either later today or tomorrow. Yeah, probably tomorrow.
Thank you for that summary. I found them to be very interesting and helpful, so appreciate PPACG pulling that together and well attended. Okay, moving on to number 6, our action items. And the first is a request from Woodland Park for functional classification changes. And Catherine, you get to lead this
Thanks,
request.
Ally. Yes, Catherine Runger, Transportation Planner, PPACG. Right, so over the past few months, you've seen this similar item for other jurisdictions. So this is for requesting functional class changes for Woodland Park specifically, as we're doing a full review of the system, and we're doing it kind of piecemeal as we make our way through the MPO boundary. So this one's for Woodland Park, and working with Sally and her team, Will Mass as well on our team. They identified some roadways for recommendation of changes, and those are outlined in attachment 1 under the table. As a kind of a summary, there are 11 roadways that would be going to local, 18 roadways that would be going to minor collectors, 19 that would be going to major collectors, and 3 that would be going to minor arterials. This recommendation would be going to CAC and then the board, and then would be requested to CDOT, and then would go to Federal Highway for final approval. So it wouldn't be official until they made that final approval, as with all of the other recommendations that we're making. All of the documentation on the data and the request are in attachment 1, and don't think there's only attachment 1, and otherwise I'll ask for your approval or recommended approval.
And if I may just make a comment, it was really helpful working with Will to identify these minor collectors, major collectors, and the 3 minor arterials. So I appreciate the process very much, so we can align our roadways in an appropriate manner for these classifications.
Sally, would you like for, are you good with it? Would you
Very
like for
good.
me-
Yes.
Okay, then this is Tim Roberts and I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Tim.
This is Brian.
Victoria, I'll second. I beat you, Brian.
Victoria gets the second. Any further discussion about the functional classifications in Woodland Park? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, our partners in the region, to help us get that through. Let's see, we are now moving on to 6B, which is the 2022 to 2025 TIP Amendment number 2. Catherine.
Thanks, Sally. So this is a request from CDOT and in coordination with MMT as well for changes to our 22 through 25 TIP for amendment number 2. There are 4 change requests for this project, 3 coming from CDOT Region 2, and then the 4th coming from CDOT Department of Transit and Rail, is that right? And then MMT confirming that they're okay with the change as well. The first 3 from CDOT are for adding funds either through the SB 260 state funds or SB 267 state funds in fiscal years 2022 to the I-25 Fillmore Garden of the Gods project, the Build Grant MAMSIP project, and State Highway 21 or Powers and Airport Road interchange design. And then the final one is to add SB 267 state funds in FY 2022 for the MMT Downtown Transit Center. And with that, well, I can take any questions.
Does anyone have a question about the TIP amendment number 2? Okay. So I would look for a motion.
Hi, this is Brian. I recommend the Board of Directors approve amendment number 2 to the FY 2022 to 2025 TIP.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have a second?
This is Jason. I'll second.
Thank you, Jason. Any last minute discussion about the motion or the TIP amendment number 2? Okay, moving right along, then we will call for our vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great, seeing none, motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to item number 7 and CDOT updates. I believe Kathleen is present.
Yes, I'm present in person for the first time since COVID hit. So I'm glad to be here and also have the opportunity to say goodbye to Catherine as well. The big news at CDOT right now, of course, is the greenhouse gas rules. They were published. There's a 60-day comment period. And right now, a total of 8 public hearings have been scheduled across the state. All that information is available on the CDOT greenhouse gas website. And there is a link to the proposed rules on that website as well. Also, there's availability to become a stakeholder formally, and we are requesting folks who have comments to please do so. Don't be shy. So that's the big news from HQ. Wendy, do you have any region 2? Okay. MMOF, we are working on some projects for that and some guidelines for the way that the match requirements can be forgiven.
And we're working on the actual application itself to update it so that it has more information and some of the changes that were written into the law that give requirements to the MPOs and to the TPRs for reporting and other things. So that we're updating that process, and it's supposed to be done sometime in September so that we can actually begin working on this process in October. So more to come, and I think that's all we have, right? I think so. Michelle, do you have anything?
Just real quick, sorry. And you were talking about the new MMOF funds, correct, that are coming down the
Yes,
line?
the one
Okay,
the M for
just to make sure.
mitigation. Yes.
Correct. There are new MMOF funds coming.
This is Lachelle Davis. I just wanted to bring up a slight, something that you might see on your contracts. When earlier in the year, there was some funding swaps from STP Metro, and we swapped it with COVID relief stimulus funds for about 7 projects. 6 of them are affected by this, but the STP Metro had a % match, local match that was there. COVID relief funds can only be budgeted at 100%. And so our contracts are going to look different for those projects specifically. It will reflect 100% federal funds. However, you're still needing to have your local match, but it will be reflected as local overmatch. But really, it's all comes out in the wash. When you get reimbursed, you'll be reimbursed 100%, and then of course be responsible for the rest of the project costs as it moves forward. But I just wanted to let people know that their contracts are going to look a little different from those where it's not going to reflect local match.
Okay, thank you, Lachelle and Wendy and Kathleen. Appreciate the update. Anything else from our CDOT partners? Okay, we'll move on to the FTA, FHWA updates, PPACG certification review and public survey. Is this one yours, John?
This is should be Christian Kenny. There she is.
Hi,
There she is.
everyone. Hi there. Thanks for including this on the agenda. On behalf of Aaron Busto and myself, we just wanted to remind you that we are in the process of reviewing materials for the planning certification review that's underway. And thank you for including those materials, Catherine, in the packet, and John. The big news for today is just we are announcing that we're kicking off the solicitation for public comments, public and stakeholder and agency comments. And so Aaron and myself would appreciate receiving any feedback from anybody about the transportation planning process in the region. And we have established a survey with the help of Jessica and Catherine, and that is available to just provide comments through this electronic survey. But if you'd like to also send us an email or even call us on the phone and have a candid conversation, we'd welcome that as well. And Aaron may have other thoughts too and comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. I did notice that link in the memo. My question is, who are you reaching out to? What's your subject area, including the TAC members, but are you sending the survey to others?
It's a general public survey, so everybody who's considered general public, right? So that's any stakeholder, any general public person, and TAC board members, anybody who's interested in commenting. We'd be interested in hearing any and all comments.
Yeah, Sally, I believe the federal standard is that we have to put it out for public notice, just like we would any of our other plans. So Jessica McMillan, I think I saw you on the call there. This is something we've already published, correct? Or going to publish soon?
Today's like the kickoff, maybe. Would you say, Jessica?
I believe we did already publish it, just with the notice that it's available to comment on.
Okay, and did you send out should we send out an email blast potentially?
We can do that.
Awesome, thanks, Jessica. And then I haven't checked your website, but in theory, we post it on PPACG's website. And any other social media ideas that Jessica may have would be welcome.
And it
Yes,
went up
sure.
on our website on the 11th.
Awesome.
And we started scheduling our social media posts over the past week. I was out of the office, so I had to schedule them in advance. So
It showed up in my Facebook feed, so I thought maybe I would just give myself kudos, but I figured, nah, that's a little now. But yeah, it's out in Facebook land.
Okay, great. And we are hoping to receive any comments by September 14th, I believe is the, or 17th rather.
Yep.
That Friday. So yeah, that's it. And again, the deadline for the certification is the first half of January. So we've got some time, but we are hoping to get the feedback from anyone by mid-September so that we can present that during our workshop on September 30th to technical staff. So that's the incentive for us picking September 17th also. And that letter that's attached has been signed. That for some reason, when you attach it as a PDF, the signatures don't show up that was signed. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen, for your work associated with this. Now we are at item 7C, which is funding year 2023 to 2027 TIP draft for committee review. And Catherine, you'll lead us in this discussion, please.
Thank you, Sally. All right. So over the past months, you've seen the 22 through 25 TIP being adopted. And as I mentioned, we're going to start adopting another one coming through. So what this one is, this one's the fiscal year 2023 through 2027 TIP draft. This one will include those SDP Metro and TAP funding programming recommendations that you all went through for that selection workshop over the last 2 times, the 2 workshops. So that this TIP does include those, just so you know. Right, so this TIP is actually switching to a 5-year TIP. So it's going to be a 23 through 27. And as to make note, so Aaron, don't worry, I'll tell. The first 4 years of a 5-year TIP are actually only the active years. So while we will be listing 2027 in this TIP, it's not considered active, it's considered illustrative. So in order to make this that last year active, and after fiscal year 2023, a new TIP will need to occur next year. So a full kind of update TIP adoption will have to occur next year to make those final 4 years active. So just to be aware of that. So it lists 5 years, but really only the first 4 years are active at the moment once it gets adopted. So the memo links to the full document and the updates there. So the document and then all the appendices are listed at our TIP website. And with that, I can take any questions or comments. Oh, and this is just for an information item this month. And on the second page of the memo, you'll see an adoption schedule overview of when the planned adoption and the key action items of this adoption occur, including the public release that we do, public comment period, and giving the time for the committees to review those public comments as well.
So when it comes back through, will you be taking vacation time from FHWA to handle this item? No, I guess.
No.
All right, I guess
Actually,
I'll handle the item.
That's
Fine.
a good point. Please submit any comments to John, John Leosatos. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay. Anybody have anything to add? It's just for information at this point. We'll go on to item D under number 7, which is federal funding equity. And John, your name's by this one.
Thanks. And again, this was an item that was added at the request of Brandy when we talked about it briefly after the last, or excuse me, not the last workshop, but the August 2nd workshop. But basically, the issue at hand is, as some of you may know, but I'll just, in case there's somebody who doesn't, I'll go in a little more detail, and forgive me if it's something you've already heard. But, every, 4 or 5 years, the Federal Surface Transportation Act gets reauthorized. And then sometimes it's not every 4 or 5 years, and they'll have multiple extensions where that bill will stick around for, 6 or 7 years. But that being said, every bill has the amount of appropriations for the different fund sources over time, and that's the document you can use to plan. Well, back in, I believe, 2009, when MAP 21 was passed, instead of saying, hey, we have the funding formulas based on population and lane miles, they basically said, well, based on the amount of funds you received last year, this is the amount of funds you're going to receive this time. And that has continued on in practice after MAP 21 with Safety Lou and the FAST Act. I think that's the ones that have come since then. So basically for now 12 years, that's been the case. This is important because those numbers in 2009 were based on the year 2000 census. So Colorado is receiving its federal funding share based on our population and road miles back from the year 2000. So we all know that Colorado is a fast growing state, and we have added lots more lanes and lots more people. So receiving our funding based on 2000 numbers means we're getting the short end of the stick. I believe the last bit of data on this that was shown is, while there are several, and if you scroll down a little bit, Jessica, you can see there's several states there that are the red that are not getting their fair share based on what they put in. But to make it worse, Colorado, Texas, and South Carolina are actually donor states. So we are actually putting more in than what we're getting back out. Those other states are still getting more back than what they put in, but their percentage share has decreased because folks like West Virginia there are getting far more than they put in. So that's the issue. We've been working here at PPACG with some of the other metropolitan planning organizations across the Intermountain West to have the topic addressed. The Maricopa Association of Governments, which is our sister MPO in the Phoenix metropolitan region, has been working with Congressman Stanton on the issue, and he tried to float a study bill to look at rectifying the issue. And then with this last infrastructure package that came up, Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona, I believe, also floated a bill to get that into this infrastructure bill that's happening now. So I don't, right now, as of right now, it's not in, but we still want to sort of bring attention to this issue because, again, for years we were the little guys and we were told, well, it's based on population and you just get your share and that's it. Well, now we have the population and now they've changed the rules on us. So we believe it's a fairness issue and an equity issue that needs to be addressed. I will say that it is an issue that we cannot get national organizations to sort of take a position on. So for example, the Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations, AMPO, the National Association of Regional Councils, NARC, AASHTO, the highway transportation officials, nobody wants to take a position on that nationally because obviously for all of the members who would gain by that, they have an equal number of members who are going to lose. So this is an issue that if it's ever going to get any traction, it's got to be sort of the local MPOs and the state DOTs that pick up the flag and run with it. we've had great success. I shouldn't say success, but we've had great interest from CDOT and Director Liu on this issue. And I think our friends at the state will be very supportive in working with us to try to get this changed. So that's the sort of the big issue in the nutshell, and how we're trying to get it fixed a little bit. But again, unfortunately, it all has to be done locally, because again, the national associations, just as this is not an issue they're going to touch, because they don't want to alienate half of their members. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And Brandy, specifically, let me know if I didn't touch on anything you wanted me to specifically hit.
No, that's good. I just want everybody to understand kind of where we are and how we got here. And I'm not we don't always have a plan on how to get there. Like you said, no one's gonna volunteer to say, yeah, go ahead, take my money. But maybe at some point we'll get to a tipping point where it does shift, where it in my opinion, it should be.
Right.
Yeah, it seems like this is a fairness issue, but it's so political that it's hard to get the equity across the board. All right, any other comments? Thank you, John. With that-
And Sally, if I could just real quickly, again, this is one thing that we have to be careful on, because we, again, at the MPO don't lobby or can't lobby. So when we do things, we do it based on charging our time back to our local share. So again, that's what your dues are doing. That being said, even then, we can only kind of carry it so far of providing the information of where we're at on this issue. Some of these things, as we move forward, again, to avoid any lobbying conflict, we might have to, again, rely on the local jurisdictions and your resources at the federal level to help with moving this forward. So
Thanks for that reminder. It's important that we stay within our lanes and use our funding appropriately. Okay. Okay. Next item is number 8, which is member entity announcements. So who would like to start with any announcements that you have?
Actually, Sally, this is Kristen from FTA. I'm sorry to interrupt, but just going back quickly to your action item on the TIP amendment number 2. If I heard correctly, that was to include funds for Mountain Metropolitan Transit's downtown facility, but I didn't see the materials in the packet. So I just verbally, you guys included it and approved it, but I just wanted to make that note that it looked like it wasn't included in at least the version I saw. Maybe I saw an outdated version, but scroll down a little bit.
Catherine, can you confirm that?
There should have been an updated version sent out earlier this week. I think we've been having some technical issues getting things to TAC. So the updated version did include that table, and we can send that out afterwards as well. And the table has been updated for CAC and the board approval as well. So if there's any concern, we can.
No concern. Just thanks for clarifying that, Catherine. Yes, we understand glitches happen.
Sorry, I didn't realize when I was talking about the item that it was not on that table.
No
but
problem. If you could just send that updated table out, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Of course.
And let me just ask our voting committee members, did you all understand that it did include the 4th item that's not listed on this spreadsheet for Mountain Metro?
And I can give you the full details if that helps as well.
Can you just rattle off the dollar amounts, Catherine?
Sure. Okay, Jess B will pull it up as well. And so it's adding $1 million in SB 267 state funds in fiscal year 2022 per CDOT fund rewards for MMT. It's for their downtown transit center project, and other funds that they have are FTA 5307 and local funds as well. The original costs were 19 $20,932,279. And the updated total cost would be $20,932,279. And adding that 1 million into fiscal year 2022.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so there's the actual table that identifies the 4 projects. And would you like for us to retake our vote and motion, or just a consensus that everyone understood that it included the downtown transit center?
Hey, Sally, before you go for consensus, which I believe is what would be appropriate, and someone could ask for a motion of reconsideration if they want to revote, but consensus is probably appropriate. Wendy did have an item that she wants to add to this before you decide on that.
Okay.
I just had a question, and so, and it didn't have to happen before reconsideration, but I know that the information came to the MPO from DTR, and it didn't come from the region up. So I saw the email from Julia when she sent it here. So that would be construction that money would have been allocated to, correct?
I'm not sure. It didn't say.
So
So maybe Brian knows.
I'm trying to figure out what to do with it, whether to make Julia stip it or do we stip it? That's what I'm trying to figure out what we should do. How, since it wasn't clearly identified as to what to do with the funding, what do you think we should do with it?
Well, Brian, did you, obviously, if they were just handing out money, they didn't just throw it at you. I would hope that you guys requested it. So was there anything in Mountain Metro's request that indicated if it's construction or other? And if not, then I would say we put this in design, and any leftover money from design enrolls into construction. So that would be the most prudent course of action. But Brian, I'll be quiet and let you chime in.
No, that sounds good. I mean, if it's in 2022, if we even get any closer to getting this thing done, yeah, in 2022, that would be used for design. So yeah, that sounds good.
So what I've done from the region perspective is I created a pool for the 260 projects that have transit ties to them. And I think this is 260 money that came through that process. I have to go back and double check, but if not, that's what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to put it in that pool for the transit projects for Region 2 with a WBS or a tag that belongs to Mountain Metro. Okay.
So you said you're adding this 1 million of 267 money into the 260 pool?
Well, I need to figure out what color the money was that they sent to you. I don't know whether it's 260 money or it's 267 money. I don't know that for sure. Do you know that?
Yeah, it is 267 money.
Okay, all right. Then I'll have to make something else happen. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now that we have Wendy's clarification done, can I have a consensus from everyone that we approved the tip amendment number 2 with these 4 projects?
Ellie, this is Tim Roberts. I've
Go,
got a
Tim.
marginally related question.
Okay.
So our call for projects, I don't have the approval process in front of me. So these will move forward. Our call for projects of for the last meeting, because it wasn't last month. I guess my question to John is, when will those be adopted and put into the 2022 to 2027 tip?
Right. So the 2023 to 2027 tip came today as information. It'll come back next month as action. And then once the board approves it, it will be the adopted tip. Oh, no. Oh, all right,
There's
fine.
public
Apparently
review,
the
right?
public has to be able to comment on it. Yeah, it goes out for public release and then we'll adopt it. Yes.
And for some reason in my mind, and I apologize, I should have looked at the packet better. I thought we were gonna do public, recommend to the board public review now, but we still have to program it, so never mind.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, it's in that. And we did get a recommendation from folks to say, hey, looks like the TAC is all on board. Can we just expedite this process and do it a little faster? But we just still have to go through our process twice. So we just sort of continued on with what we normally do. So that's probably part of the confusion, Tim, and I apologize. I perhaps did not respond to that request appropriately and cited enough for why we were going that route. So that's probably on me for your confusion, but I think that's where it comes from is there was this request, hey, everybody seems to be on board. Why can't we just move forward? And we were like, well, we've got to follow the process, and the board likes to see these things twice to do that. So even though you guys were on board, we still had to make sure that the CAC and the board were equally happy with the project. So that's why we went through a 2-month process instead of one.
Well, I'm easily confused, so no worries.
All right. So I
Okay.
think this takes us back, Sally, to the original sort of thing. At this point, if everyone is happy with the original tip amendment to just give you a thumbs up. Jason's here in the building. He's nodding his head and giving you a thumbs up. And if anyone is uncomfortable and thinks that we sort of really confuse the issue, that person or persons should make a motion for reconsideration, and we can open the issue up again and revote.
Thank you, John, for clarifying the process. I think we have a number of thumbs up. Is there anyone opposed to that? If so, we need a motion to reconsider. Sounds like we're good to go. And Kristen, thank you for bringing that to our attention. So we'll move back to member entity announcements. And I'll start with anybody in the room. Jason.
Jason O'Brien, did you want to say anything about the Tri-County study? I was wondering if that's why you came down here. And if not, then I just called you out and put you on the spot for nothing.
No, but I can't.
Go ahead.
If I can work a microphone. No, I mean, that might end up being helpful. I just wasn't sure when we were going to sort of roll this out to the TAC, although there's going to be a bunch of TAC members involved, and eventually we'll be bringing it to the whole TAC for information approval. But it's something we haven't talked about for a while. It's been a long delayed project for a lot of reasons, but it's basically the first transportation study of our whole Council of Governments region, as opposed to just our metropolitan planning area. So of course, it's going to include everybody who's normally involved in our TIP programming and our long range planning process, but it's also going to extend further and involve our plains and mountain rural members a lot more than we're accustomed to. So we're looking at learning a lot and deepening some of those relationships and helping out some of our rural members more than we normally can. It's going to be a pretty broad study because, like I said, it's the first study that we've done of our whole Council of Governments area, and we're not sure exactly what to expect. We've talked with some of our counties and a while ago now, but we got some preliminary direction, and that's what went into our RFP and our contract. But things might have changed since then, so we're looking forward to a very robust stakeholder process and getting some guidance from our committees and from our stakeholders involved in the study. And with that, I guess that's all I've got. I can answer any questions about it, but we are expecting to bring it to the TAC before too long with some preliminary findings for you all to react to before we get too deep in.
Jason, this is Sally. Remind me if you have a consultant on board now?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, we recently retained FHU to conduct the study process. We had an open competitive bidding process. It was a tough decision. We got some very excellent proposals, but we ended up going with FHU, and we're working now on just sort of the early structure of the study.
Thank you.
And we're
Other
expecting to be done
questions?
within 1 year.
Okay. Other questions for Jason about the regional study?
I will say if Jason is sitting behind Jason, you have to use last names.
Oh, okay.
Thanks.
All right. Gail, do you have a question?
No, I don't, Sally.
Okay, thank you. All right, other member entity announcements. I do have one from Woodland Park, but I'll wait for anybody else from the city, El Paso. Okay, Monument. All right, the one announcement I have is that we again have lost our city engineer who resigned this month or last month. And so having been through now 4 city engineers in maybe 6 years, we are restructuring that position so that it does not have public works responsibilities in operations and will purely be plan review and project coordination for our city engineer. And this is, we're shifting around some other positions, eliminating an assistant city manager in order to carve out this dedicated city engineer position. So that will be posted very soon. That's all I have to announce. Okay. Items for future TAC meetings, we will have action related to the 2023-2027 TIP proposal and other items. Catherine or John, should we note at this point?
I can't remember. I think we, Mark, for the long range plan, do we come back next time for information or do we skip a month, another month? Mark?
Yeah, so we're it'll be coming for action for you in the future. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Mark. And then Victoria, do you think you'll be ready for your classifications, roadways?
I'm not sure when they're going to be ready. I need to really check in with Will, but honestly, I've been swamped with other stuff. So it's sort of sitting on my back burner right now.
Okay. No hurry.
And then the other thing is at some point we'll bring more of a nuts and bolts discussion on the greenhouse gas. The greenhouse gas will definitely, depending on how it's worded, the final version and how it is implemented through the modeling process will definitely have an impact on our project selection. As right now, it basically reads that you model your projects and then you test that against your greenhouse gas cap and reduction that you're required to make. And so that might require us to remove some capacity projects from the plan to get the modeling to hit correctly. And or again, depending on how the final rule is written and how it's implemented, that there may be an opportunity to identify mitigation projects that even if you don't quite hit your modeled number, if you have these projects funded and implemented, they would count as greenhouse gas mitigation items. Now, again, this all depends on how the final rule reads. But if that's the case, we would also then have to sort of identify the funds and the funding sources that are appropriate to fund those mitigation activities to move forward. So it's all sort of one of those things, I'm not sure if I bring it to you beforehand and we sort of talk about these things so you guys have an understanding if you want to go and participate in the greenhouse gas rulemaking that Kathleen talked about earlier. Or if we wait till the final rule is done and I would say, okay, here's the aftermath, here's the rules, how do we implement them and make them work? So I'm open to suggestions from you all when you want to talk about it, maybe both before and after. But the definite upshot of all of this is there will be a fundamental change in the way projects are selected based on the SB 260 that was passed by the legislature. And I think I've offended Kathleen. She's gonna.
No.
Oh, okay.
This is Kathleen. I just want to add that it's really important if you do have comments to submit them in writing. That way they are definitely part of what's considered and part of the record of consideration. So that is something that really needs to happen. So please comment.
Thank you, Kathleen. And so last but not least, Catherine, we want to wish you the best in Juneau. And I'm really sorry to see you go. You've been extremely helpful for me being a rookie at this stuff. So I really, really appreciate all your support and help. And from, I think the overall group feels the same, that you've done an excellent job and we're going to miss you.
Thank you, Sally. I really appreciate that. And working with everybody's been really great. So thanks everybody for your patience with me while I learn the area, and hopefully the next person will get the same help as well. Thanks.
I'd like to echo that too. Those are great words, Sally. But Catherine, you've been a great addition to PPACG staff, and we are going to miss you, but wish you nothing but success and good luck and adventure, because that's going to be a pretty great place to be. So good luck.
Anyone else with farewell message to Catherine?
Yeah, thanks for everything, Catherine. You've been great. We really appreciate you. Thank you for coming in and righting the ship that may or may not have been sunk, which none of us really knew, but I'm sure you knew to what extent you had to fix it. So thanks for all of your.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, with that, I will adjourn the meeting and thank you all. We'll see you all next month.
Thanks, Sally. Great job. See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.